Hey everyone, I'm Jaden,
And I'm Noah.
and we are the Super Gamer Bros, and this is the Super Gamer Bros podcast. We're just a couple of brothers who love playing games and love talking about games, so that's what we do. And today, Noah, we are talking about Pokemon FireRed and Pokemon LeafGreen.
That's true. For many in our generation, and those of us who grew up in the 2000s and 2010s might, well, 2010s might be a little bit later, but they might know that Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green was pretty much everybody's introduction to the series.
Well, I wouldn't say everybody.
Um,
I don't know who everybody is. Like everybody
that's
we
true.
knew, everybody we knew, I would say that's true. But
I would say it was the most popular Pokemon game, or maybe the one that boosted it the most.
I mean, again, as far as people we knew, I agree with you. But overall, I
Well, I mean, this is like how we received it. This is our viewpoint, our podcast.
yeah, like I said, but well, I'm just when you say overall, I feel like that implies to the overall general gaming population, general Pokemon population. I
Yeah,
feel
no, we
like that
don't
is,
speak to that.
yeah, I just feel like in that is not true. I can't agree with you on that. I feel like Fire Red and Leaf Green probably in the overall Pokemon community were very what's the word non-essential. The reason being, for anyone who doesn't know, Fire Red and Leaf Green are remakes of the original first generation Pokemon games, Pokemon Red and Blue. Red and Blue, I believe in America, uh, came out in 1998. And Fire Red and Leaf Green were remakes released after third generation Pokemon games. So they're technically considered third gen games if you kind of look at the overall Pokemon timeline. But they were remakes of the first generation games, Red and Blue. So despite the fact that we obviously grew up as Pokemon fans, we had the cards, we watched the show, we played the games. So despite the fact that we were growing up when third generation was, I would say, was the most recent, we did grow up playing and knowing, recognizing most first generation because we played these remakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always thought it's very funny our experience with Pokemon because we grew up, we were playing Fire Red and Leaf Green, so the first gen remakes. Also, a friend of ours had given us his copy of Pokemon Gold, so we were also playing second gen. And then on TV, we were watching mainly third generation, and when we were a little bit older, fourth generation Pokemon TV series. So we actually kind of got all four of those generations at once.
Yeah, it wasn't on time.
I feel like goes without saying, but obviously we will not talk about Red and Blue specifically because pretty much everything that is in Red and Blue is in these games. You know, like they certainly didn't take anything out. As far as I'm aware, when they remade them, they did add extra stuff that we will note if it is exclusive to the remakes and not in the originals because just for I don't know consistency's sake. And yeah, that's Pokemon. No, I don't know if you had anything
Nope,
to add or
nothing
you
bad
just wanted to
there.
get into. Let's just get into it then. Start with the setting. Obviously, first generation takes place in the Kanto region of the Pokemon world. I feel like, I mean, again, I guess I can't say overall, but certainly one of the most recognizable, I feel like, gaming maps, gaming locations of all time, the Kanto region. Yeah, I don't know. I just have here, Noah, the a very long list of locations in the game because there are a lot.
I mean, I think it's without argument that the Kanto region is the most recognizable region in Pokemon.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think I feel like I don't even know what the second most recognized would be because I honestly can't even say that it's the second gen region. I feel like it's not. I don't know. I feel like it's not. I believe Johto is the second gen region. I feel like
Sinnoh.
it's not that. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know. How would you want to do this? Like, do we just want to list off every location? Because I should say the story synopsis is very brief in for this because it's not there's not really too much story wise. that needs to be like described. You know, it's a very story minimal game. Pokemon is, and kind of it always has been.
Yeah, I guess just read through it and note anything about specific ones you think are noteworthy. Like,
Okay.
obviously, Pallet Town is probably the most infamous town in all of Pokemon.
Exactly. Pallet Town, where you start your journey. And then you head to Viridian City, Viridian Forest, Pewter City, which also I guess, no, I put in asterisk here. The gym leader names for all the cities with gyms, in case you didn't remember, just give you a quick refresher.
Yeah, I only know Brock and Misty. And
Yes,
Giovanni, of course.
of course. And I do like I I do like that even as far back as the first generation of Pokemon, there are a lot of different areas in the game. One thing I don't list here are all the routes, because there are like a bunch of routes, and those are just, basically little roads traveling to like between different towns and cities. Most all of the routes are unique amongst themselves, and like I would say no two routes are exactly like. They're different. They have different trainers with different Pokemon. A different kind of catches to get through them, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but I wouldn't list them
Yeah,
as
no, no, I
unique
mean,
locations.
no, because they're all literally just numbered, like Route 2, Route 4, Route 22. They're just, I absolutely did not list all of them. But you go through forests, you go through mountains, you go through caves, haunted tower, business, a hidden base, water, just surfing through water, to islands, a bunch of different locations, which is really, really cool. I can really respect the variety of locations in Pokemon, all the way back to Gen 1. So obviously, Mount Moon, famous location where you get your the fossil Pokemon. One of the coolest yet most useless things in the first gen Pokemon games.
Absolutely.
Then you go to Cerulean City, then Vermilion City, where the SS Anne is located. It's a ship you go on, fight Team Rocket there. Very, I think, iconic location. Diglett's Cave, which of all the locations here is the only, I'm pretty sure, optional location. It's very dark, and I believe it kind of acts as like a shortcut connecting two areas, but you do not have to explore it. I don't think there's any story necessary item that you find in there. Yeah, I never would go there because you never
That's
had to.
weird. I thought you had to go there, and I went there every time.
I'm pretty
And
sure you
I
did.
just would walk along the edges. It
Yeah,
was a pain in the butt. I
yeah,
just thought it was really
yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Well, there might be some like, cool item you can get in there that you can use for something, but I don't think there's anything, and obviously probably some unique Pokemon, but in terms of like completing the game, doing the minimum you have to do, you do not have to go there at all. Rock Tunnel, Lavender Town, one of the most famous locations in Pokemon, Pokemon Tower, Ghost Pokemon, Cubone's mom. It's all very sad. Celadon City, which is home to the a casino where you can gamble, and inside that casino, hidden Team Rocket base. Saffron City, home to Silphco, which is again Team Rocket. Well, Team Rocket, I think, is attacking that place. I don't think it's like secretly run by them. Fuchsia City, which has the Safari Zone, obviously another iconic location. You cannot take your Pokemon into the Safari Zone. You only get 30 Safari Balls, and you can use bait to try to catch Pokemon. The Power Plant, also, I guess that is an optional location of one of the 3 legendary bird Pokemon Zapdos. You do not have to go to the complete story. The Seafoam Islands, you have to travel through there to get to Cinnabar Island, where you find the Pokemon Mansion and your 7th gym leader. Then you return to Viridian, head to Victory Road, the Indigo Plateau, where you fight the Elite Four. And that's also, after you beat the game, remake exclusive. You also have the Sevi Islands, which are quite, creatively named 1 island, 2 island, and 3 island. And that's Pokemon, the map.
Cool.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those games that, we were younger, played through so many times that I can very clearly remember like everything about this game. I can remember every location, what they look like, all the gym leaders. Really cool, really cool. The map. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's a fantastic map. A lot of, like you said, reading the list, a lot of really iconic locations.
And it is pretty linear. I do like the way that it circles back around on itself. I think that's like a cool thing they did.
I like that too, and fast travel makes going through the game a lot easier.
That is correct. It would be very annoying if you had to actually physically run, bike, walk to every location. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. So, yeah, and do you remember Noah 1, 2, and 3 Island? I'm curious because those are
I have vague memories
okay.
of doing things after beating the Elite Four.
Yeah, it's I won't say they're fun, they exist. Like they're not bad, I guess. You can catch, Pokemon from later generations there because obviously it was added in the remake, so they can include those Pokemon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which again, though, it's kind of pointless. Well, kind of pointless because by that point you've already beaten the Elite Four, and I guess you can re-challenge the Elite Four, but who cares? Anyway, now we get to the story. For the sake of the story descriptions, I use the name Red for the player character and Blue for the rival because that's like their game official names, I guess you could say. Right? Noah, you following
That's
along?
canon.
Yeah, but you can name your character and your rival whatever you want.
Well, yeah, but there's a whole show where about red and blue.
I mean, it's a 4-episode miniseries. I wouldn't say it's a whole show.
Okay, but that's the premise of the first game.
Yeah.
They were red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Anyway, so the silent protagonist of FireRed LeafGreen is a child named Red who lives in a small town named Pallet Town. After players start a journey and venture alone into tall grass, a voice warns them to stop. Professor Oak, a famous Pokemon researcher, explains to Red that such grass is often the habitat of wild Pokemon, and encountering them alone can be very dangerous. He takes Red to his laboratory where they meet Oak's grandson, Blue, another aspiring Pokemon trainer. Red and Blue are both instructed to select a starter Pokemon for their travels, and Blue then challenges Red to a Pokemon battle with their newly obtained Pokemon, and he continues to battle Red at certain points throughout the games. I feel the need to warn you, Noah, and I guess anyone listening, that the description of the plot is described to someone who has never heard of what Pokemon is, so some very basic things will be explained here.
Why don't
Just,
you grease it?
I did grease it, I just didn't change it.
No, I mean right now.
Oh, padding for time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. After reaching the next city, player is asked to deliver a parcel to Professor Oak. Upon returning to the laboratory, they are presented with a Pokédex, a high-tech encyclopedia that records the entries of Pokemon that are captured. Oak then asks the player to fulfill his dream of compiling a comprehensive list of every Pokemon in the game. While visiting the region's cities, the player encounters special establishments called Pokemon gyms. Inside these buildings are gym leaders, each of whom the player must defeat in a Pokemon battle to obtain a gym badge. Once a total of 8 badges are acquired, the player is given permission to enter the Pokemon League, which consists of the best trainers in the region. There, the player battles the Elite Four, who are the best. Also, throughout the game, the player has to fight against the forces of Team Rocket, a criminal organization that abuses Pokemon. They devise numerous plans to steal rare Pokemon, all of which the player must foil, meeting and defeating the organization boss, Giovanni. And I guess I do want to go back here. I just kind of explain, just talk about the different gym leaders. So first you fight Brock, the rock type gym leader, and then Misty, water type. Both Brock and Misty incredibly famous, well known for the anime more than the game, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have Lieutenant Surge, the electric type trainer, Erica, grass type, Sabrina, psychic type, Koga, poison type gym leader, Blaine, fire type, and of course, top 10 greatest, I don't know what you call it, like shockers, surprises in video game history. The Viridian City gym leader is none other than Giovanni himself, the leader of Team Rocket.
It was pretty crazy.
Was pretty crazy. And then when you head to the Elite Four, you have the 4 members: Lorelei, Ice Member, Bruno, fighting Agatha, Ghost, and Lance, the Dragon Master. Everybody loves Lance.
The Elite Four were the real bad guys this game.
Yeah. And then, of course, after you beat Lance, it is revealed, shocking, oh my god, what? Someone just happened to beat Lance like 2 minutes before you did. And it turns out that that person is Blue. So then you battle Blue to determine who will then be the actual champion of the Kanto League. Crazy, right? And then
Oh, it's a great story.
yeah, and that's the story of Pokemon Red and Blue, and the main story of Fire Red and Leaf Green. After you beat the Elite Four for the first time, one of the members, Lorelei, disappears. After gaining access to the Sevi Islands, an entirely new region, the player discovers Lorelei in her house and convinces her to come back. In every Pokemon game, after you beat the Elite Four, you can challenge the Elite Four again, and they have higher level Pokemon, tougher to beat, and you can challenge them an infinite number of times. I don't know about any other remakes specifically. I'm sure the main game series it isn't like this, but in Fire Red Leaf Green, you have to actually go find Lorelei before you can challenge the Elite Four again, which is not something that, as far as up to this point, had ever been done before.
That is interesting.
So then, on the Sevi Islands, the protagonist must once again thwart Team Rocket's plans on several occasions, and then recover two artifacts, the Ruby and the Sapphire, and put them in the main computer at one island, which, once that is done, it allows the player to trade with other people that are using Pokemon's Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, as well as Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Other games. Those are different games for people who
That's
didn't
very random.
know. What do you mean?
All those games that you can trade with.
Well, the third gen games, they came out same generation of Pokemon.
Coliseum and XD?
They're I mean, they're side games, but they did come out before
didn't know
fourth
that.
gen.
Hmm.
Yeah, fun things to learn, Noah.
Great games.
Great game. Well, one of them is. And yeah, that's the story. Very basic. I feel like that's one, if any, constant critique on Pokemon games is that the stories are very simple. They do get more complicated. I would say fifth gen has the most complicated story of any of the Pokemon generations. And in my opinion, the best, but we're not talking about that. But I feel with first gen, it's about as basic as you can get, for a 10-year-old taking down a dangerous criminal organization.
Yeah, that's true. All the NPC dialogue and the writing, it's all simple, meant to get the plot across.
Yeah.
We are Team Rocket, let's battle,
It's I mean, it's fun, I think. I do like the fact that we did technically start with first generation Pokemon in the games. Most people, usually anyone's favorite generation of Pokemon is the first one they played. I'm not saying that this is my favorite generation, but it's still, I thought it was cool. Like, I remember, just because we were so young when we played and watched, being so confused about watching the third gen anime and playing the first gen games and being like, where are all these Pokemon we like? Like, where's this guy and this guy, and not realizing that how the generations really worked.
Yeah, it was complicated because the show did the same thing where it like ties generations into like different seasons or shows in and of themselves.
Yes.
So now the shows are a whole mess of, a conglomeration of timelines and storylines and
Yeah.
different generations and Pokemon groups and locations, just like the games are now.
Yeah, and the games certainly get way, way more complicated. First gen, even the remakes are about as simple as Pokemon gets. But again, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I love first gen. I absolutely love Fire Red, Leaf Green. We initially had Leaf Green, and then Noah stole Fire Red from a friend of ours in high school.
It was probably more like borrowed indefinitely.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Abiel, man.
Not quite the same as theft.
I would argue that's exactly what it is.
Ah,
Like, you took it from him and never gave it back.
that's not true.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, that's the story in Pokemon. Story is not the focus. I mean, it doesn't matter what generation you're playing. Nobody really plays Pokemon for the story. They play it for the gameplay. Noah, why don't you tell us about the gameplay?
Fire Red and Leaf Green are a third person overhead perspective. The main screen is an overworld in which the player navigates the protagonist. The player can walk initially only and then run after obtaining certain shoes and bike after getting a bike.
Yes. Which I will just say here, the running shoes, not in the original first gen games, these are exclusive to
Oh,
the remake. Yeah, the original Red and Blue, you could
wow.
not run.
I
Yeah,
did not know that. That's a good note.
yeah, it's a slow game.
Jeez.
Like there are
God.
a
Yeah.
lot of older Pokemon fans I know that like, hey, first gen is awesome. It started it all. Never playing a first gen game again for the simple fact of it is very slow because you cannot run.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, moving on from that.
Right. So that's just movement. So then there's also combat. So when the player encounters a wild Pokemon or is challenged by a trainer, the screen switches to a turn-based battle screen that displays the player's Pokemon and the engaged Pokemon. During a battle, the player may select a move for their Pokemon to perform, use an item, switch their active Pokemon, or attempt to flee. Uh, all Pokemon have hit points, the HP. When the HP is 0, it faints and it can no longer battle until it is revived. It can be revived using an item or at one of the Poké Centers, a place for healing your Pokemon, right? We all know about that. We know Nurse Joy from the show and whatnot. But obviously, if all of your Pokemon or an opponent's Pokemon faint, then that person loses the battle and the other person gives up money traditionally. If the player wins, his Pokemon gets XP, which will allow that Pokemon to level up and eventually evolve. Huge facet of the Pokemon as they are wild creatures is that each of them has a unique type or types attached to them. For instance, the 3 starter types are a great example of how the type coverage works in the game. It's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors, one type has advantage on another type, but disadvantage against another, you know. So there's Charizard, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. Did I say Charizard? Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur being fire, water, and grass, respectively. And so that kind of introduces the player to the most important facet of the combat, which is going to be the type coverage. Using Pokemon that are super effective against your opponents is the biggest thing that will help you in combat. Beside, I guess, just being extremely over leveled.
Yeah, and obviously, types. Again, you can't think of Pokemon without thinking about types. In the first gen games, there are 15 different types. In the remake, third gen remakes, there are additional types added that I believe if any Pokemon that changed types kept those changes despite it being a first gen remake. That's just important, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember if
Like
any
if
of
their
the
type was changed in this game, it stayed that way in future games. Is that what you're saying?
like if for example, like dark type did not exist in first gen. So
Oh,
if there was a move, say that was not initially a dark type move because that type didn't exist in first gen. For example, bite is a very famous dark type attack in first generation Pokemon games. It was a normal type attack because dark type did not exist, but in the remakes it is a dark type attack. Like they didn't, revert it back for the sake of it being a remake. And the same is true for I don't know if there are any first generation Pokemon whose types were changed in second and third gen. But if they were like, like a type added, like, oh, this Pokemon was a normal type, but actually it's a dark type. That type just didn't exist at the time. Then it would have kept the new typing and not been reverted back to the old. But I'm absolutely drawing a blank on if there are any Pokemon like that in first gen.
yeah, I don't know specifically.
Yeah. Anyway.
Why don't you name a few of the types?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So there are 15, which is a lot. I think since the initial like Pokemon generation, since Gen 1, they have added 3. I know for a fact 3 at the top of my head I can think of, which for being, at this point over 25 years old since the original Pokemon, only adding 3 types, that's pretty solid system I think they had in place there.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, grass, water, fire, the starter type Pokemon, very simple. There's psychic, there's ghost, there's electric, fighting, poison, dragon, bug, flying, a bunch of different types. And
Right,
as
it
you
goes
said,
on.
yeah, it is 15 of them. It's a long list. And as you said, there's the rock, paper, scissors mechanic. Some types are super effective against others. Like I'll use water as an example. Water. It is weak to grass, so grass does double damage to water. It is super effective on ground, so it does double damage to ground. It is resistant to fire, so fire actually does half damage to a water type Pokemon. And just like, yeah, so it is like it's something you absolutely have to think about at all times.
Right, it definitely affects the combat severely.
Absolutely. Fun story about that later, about types, just because just from us being kind of stupid when we were younger. Also, real quick, want to talk about TMs and HMs. TMs are called, which are technical machines, and HMs, hidden machines. They're basically like these little discs that, like, they let you teach moves to Pokemon. The science behind it isn't really explained, but TMs, not every move can be learned this way, but quite a few of them can. And the TMs, you can use them once to teach one Pokemon, one move, like whatever that move is, and then it's gone forever. And for the most part, in pretty much every Pokemon game, you can find them once, and that's it. So for a lot of moves, it's you get one chance to teach it to a Pokemon, so don't screw it up. I believe in later games you can buy them, but the list of the ones you can buy is limited. It's not like every possible TM you can buy. It's the more like the less useless, powerful ones typically. And then hidden machines are special what's the word I'm special moves that not only are useful in battle, some of them more useful than others, but you have to use hidden machines outside in the world to be able to explore. Obviously, there is the hidden machine Fly, which allows you to fast travel. There is Cut, which allows you to cut bushes in your way. Surf allows you to surf on water. Strength allows you to move boulders. Very important one that Noah, we never used, Flash. It lights up dark tunnels, but like Rock Tunnel
Oh my
and Digless Cave,
god.
both super dark.
Jesus.
Never did that. We never once for a long
No,
time.
we thought Flash was useless.
Yeah, for a long time we didn't know you could do that. But then even after I found out, it's stupid because you can't get rid of HMs after a Pokemon learns them. Because I probably should talk about this earlier. Pokemon get 4 moves, and if they want to learn a new one, you have to delete an old one. You can't delete HMs. So if you teach a Pokemon Flash, which in battle is essentially useless, it will know Flash until it dies. So that is something that sucks about HMs is most of them are not very useful in battle. Surf, one of the best water moves in the game. Awesome. Teach that HM to every water Pokemon you have. But Cut, Flash, I would say Strength is better, but still not great. Typically most people will have a Pokemon in their party specifically that knows like 4 HMs that you use for that and never use in battle. It's whatever.
Do you get them all through story? Like, are there any
Yes.
missable ones?
I think Flash is technically missable because you can get through the game without it, hypothetically. And it's not in the original first gen games because I'm pretty sure it just didn't exist, but Waterfall is an HM that allows you to go up waterfalls that you need to explore the Sevi Islands, but I don't think you need it to like do the story in the Sevi Islands. It's just bonus stuff. And that one I think you just find from a random person in a house somewhere, if I remember correctly. And speaking of
I actually
houses,
remember Waterfall.
yeah, That's cool. It's not the best in battle, but it's cool to watch your Pokemon go up a waterfall.
It is.
Speaking of houses, I don't know, I had a cool segue idea, but it just completely escaped my mind. Cities. When you're going through the overworld in Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen, it's not just routes and empty buildings. There are people in these cities, there are people on these routes, aside from trainers, that you can just talk to. And it's very much kind of like any like open world game where you're kind of they don't say it, but it's recommended that you talk to literally everybody, because while a fair amount of them do have nothing useful to say, just as much give you tips, give you anything. In Pokemon, there are, I know in Fire Red Leaf Green, 3 people at least that you can talk to trade Pokemon for Pokemon that you can't just catch naturally in the wild, which is always cool. And yeah, so it's recommended you go through the buildings, you talk to the people. There is obviously the Pokemon Center where you heal your Pokemon. Also, that's where the PC is, where any you can only carry 6 Pokemon. Any other Pokemon go on the PC, you move around your party and stuff. You also can go to the Pokemart where you buy potions, you buy Pokeballs, you buy other types of goods, and that's cities. Noah, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Each one is different.
Yeah.
We talk about how they're all different, but sometimes you're on a giant boat. Sometimes you're in like a real city that has skyscrapers. There's the area with a safari. They're just very different looking biomes. The haunted city.
Uh-huh.
It's all really cool.
Yeah, no,
And all the people there are designed differently as well. The NPCs and the enemies.
yeah, and the trainers. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Yep. Yeah, and Pokemon, your trainers are everything from youngsters to bug catchers to bikers to spirit mediums. Cool times. Anyway, so now, we talk about Pokemon, and obviously one of the best parts of any Pokemon game, something everyone does, catching Pokemon. So, during a battle with a wild Pokemon, the player may throw a Pokeball at it. If the Pokemon is successfully caught, it will come under ownership of the player. You can name it. You can, put it in your party, send it to the PC if you have too many Pokemon. And yeah, and then you can train it as your own. Factors. There are multiple factors in the success rate for capturing a Pokemon, including the HP of the target Pokemon and the type of Pokeball used. There's not just Pokeballs. There are Great Balls and Ultra Balls, which are just better types, like better types of Pokeballs. And in first generation, I'm 99% sure that's it. There are different types of balls that are better at catching certain Pokemon or used at certain points in battle later, but that's not in first gen. I'm pretty sure it's just the 3. Oh, and of course the Master Ball. You get 1 Master Ball in every game, and it automatically catches whatever Pokemon you throw at it.
I remember wasting it.
Well, it wasn't us. It was our younger brother used it to catch a Fearow. Noah, do you remember what a Fearow is?
Yeah, it's one of the base Pokemon.
It's a weaker Pokemon.
Well, yeah,
Hmm.
but it's one of the first you catch. Well,
Uh,
in an evolutionary line.
well, no, it's the last in its evolutionary line.
Well, yeah,
Spearow evolves into Fearow.
but I mean, you catch them very early game.
Oh yeah, I think like that one was level 20 or 30 or something. And then I figure this is probably the best time to talk about legendary Pokemon. Right, Noah? I don't know if you think there's another place to be. No, we're gonna talk about them here. Shut up. I don't know. I know what I'm doing. So, legendary Pokemon. There is only one of each in this game, Fire Red Leaf Green. There are the 3 birds, Articuno, which is found in the Seafoam Islands, Zapdos, found in the power plant, and Moltres. This is a different one. In the original first generation games, Moltres is found in Victory Road. In the remakes, Moltres is found in the Sevi Islands. So that is something that is quite different. You cannot
That's
capture.
bogus as
Yeah,
hell.
yeah, you cannot in this game. You
Because you were
cannot
able
capture.
to use Moltres against the Elite Four.
Originally, yes, but not in the
That's
remake.
crazy.
Yes. And actually, just talking about that, I feel like there's more than just 3 Sevi Islands, but I have to look that up because I don't remember. And then, of course, location that completely did not put with the other locations, Cerulean Cave, located just above Cerulean City, is known for having a dangerous high-level Pokemon. In Red and Blue, you cannot go there until after you complete beat the Elite Four for the first time. In the remake, FireRed LeafGreen, you also have to clear out the story of the Sevi Islands before you can go
To the cave.
Yeah, before you can go to the cave. Oh yeah, there are actually 7 Sevi Islands, and you'll never guess what islands 4 through 7 are called, Noah.
I have a pretty solid guess,
Okay.
but I don't think it's worth the time.
All right.
Who is in the cave?
Oh, Cerulean Cave is Mewtwo. Obviously, one of the most famous Pokemon of all time. Everybody knows Mewtwo.
Yeah, I mean the most recognizable legendary.
I would absolutely either him or Mew, and they're basically the same. So who cares?
Agreed.
Yeah. And then again, exclusive to FireRed and LeafGreen, you can catch one of the legendary 3 beasts. The 3 beasts, because I don't want to say every because I can't remember, but most Pokemon generations, at least I know 100% fact, the first 3 have a trio of legendaries. In first gen, it's the 3 birds. In second gen, it is the 3 beasts: Suicune, Raikou, and Entei. How it works in FireRed and LeafGreen is only one of those beasts appears. The one that appears is based on whichever starter you choose, and I think it's the one that is because each beast is water, Suicune, fire, Entei, electric, Raikou. I think it's like if you pick Charmander as your starter, Suicune
Like
appears.
the
I think it's like
legendaries are type advantaged against you.
that is correct. It is either their type advantage or their type weak, but I think it's type advantage. And they're also roaming legends, which roaming legends are incredibly, incredibly annoying. I can't give you the specifics because it's something that it's not, this isn't the only game to have roaming legends, but they're always annoying. But basically, it's like they randomly will appear in like a patch of grass. I think it's like whenever you fast travel, or even it might even be as simple as whenever you enter or exit a building, it changes their location. So it's very RNG luck based. In our entire history of playing FireRed and LeafGreen, we only ever encountered one of them once, and that was Suicune, and we did catch it. We used our Master Ball on that. That was when you, what was it, borrowed indefinitely Abiel's copy of FireRed.
That was a good Master Ball. He would have appreciated it.
He would have appreciated it. I think, yeah, he would have. Because that, if you're playing FireRed and LeafGreen, if you don't know, that's the typical recommendation is on the 3 birds and Mewtwo, you use Ultra and Great Balls till you catch them, and then save that Master Ball for that beast, because in addition to being roaming legends, it can just run from you. There are not a lot of wild Pokemon that can just run from you. That's a more rare thing. Whichever beast you run into can run from you, and if it does, I don't know if it's that its location is just reset or if you can never catch it again. I don't know which of those 2 it is. So if you're playing this game, save your Master Ball for that guy.
They might as well be the same option.
Yes.
Because finding it again is pretty much hopeless.
Yeah. It's a pain. Even I remember it's the greatest thing ever how we even found Suicune in that playthrough. That actually, I think I still have that copy of FireRed where we have it. I think it's still saved. I think I still have that. Where we caught Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. We walked out of Cerulean Cave. We walked right 5 steps into a patch of grass, and Suicune appeared. And we were freaking out. We could not believe it.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah, one of our best gaming stories ever.
See, Pokemon this generation will always be one of my favorites.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Noah, why don't you talk about exclusive version Pokemon?
Okay, so it's a staple in every Pokemon game. as they have like multiple different versions, and here they're FireRed and LeafGreen, right? There's two kinda separate games, and there are specific Pokemon only available in each version, requiring you to have both versions of the game or friends to be able to get every Pokemon, right? Because
Yes.
certain Pokemon are unavailable in your game, so
Yeah.
you would have to find a workaround for that.
Yeah, and with first gen, it's probably the worst because in first gen, the only difference between the two games are a few random wild Pokemon in certain areas. That being true for Red and Blue and Fire Red, Leaf Green. In second gen onwards, they at least have a legendary that is exclusive to each version, which I guess it also because of that because typically also starting in third gen the legendary Pokemon play a part in the story. So eventually, as you get further along, there is actually more of a difference to the generation story wise and with the legends. But in Red, Blue, Fire Red, Leaf Green, it's literally like 6 Pokemon that you can only get in one specific version, you know?
It does get pretty convoluted down the line, though. You're
It
right.
does down the line, but that's not what we're talking about. Anyway, speaking of having friends, connecting with friends. This, again, ever since Generation 1 has been a thing that you can do and are encouraged to do. On the Fire Red Leaf Green 3rd gen games released on the Game Boy Advance, you can connect to other players using a link cable. And there is also a link cable that connects to a GameCube, which is how you trade with someone on Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD. And there's also like wireless versions. Like when we were younger, had a friend who had wireless adapters that you would plug in the back of each console and can connect to each other wirelessly. And you can battle other people and you can trade with them. And again, this is necessary to collect all Pokemon. You cannot, if you are by yourself, just playing Fire Red or Leaf Green, it is literally, without cheating, 100% impossible to do.
Kind of a bummer,
Kind of a bummer. Noah, do you want
but
to talk
it's
about?
easier down the line.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Because
will talk
now,
about.
yeah, well, I was just going to say now, you know, you can just use Wi Fi and connect that way. Easier to find just random people.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So yeah, another huge facet of Pokemon is the evolution, right? Jane says the best part of Pokemon probably. Pokemon evolve in a variety of ways, including leveling up, trading, giving items such as evolution stones, right?
Yeah.
So most evolve by leveling up. It is the most traditional way, and every so often, your Pokemon will evolve. So it basically like grows and transforms into like a more mature version of what it is, and it's usually bigger and more, tough looking, I guess. And the amount of evolutions vary, but they usually go from anywhere from 1 to 3 evolutions. And then there's a character. Is there only one that has many single evolutions that are just options? Meaning
Are you
Eevee?
referring to Eevee? Yeah. Eevee is the only Pokemon like that. There are other Pokemon that can evolve into, like, not in first gen, but in other gens, you do have other Pokemon that can evolve to multiple branching pathways, but never more than 2 different options, whereas Eevee currently has 8. Um, and yeah, never more than 2 options.
Yeah, Eevee does stand apart as a really unique
Yeah.
Pokemon.
And I mean, Eevee's there since Gen 1. Impressive.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, but evolution is probably the best part of Pokemon. I
Yeah.
mean, to me, the whole point of the game is seeing those Pokemon grow and become really cool looking.
No, you're correct.
After all that
Yeah.
hard work we
Yeah.
did together
Yeah.
as a team.
Mhm. And it even, like, as of, generation, I think 8 is the newest one. There are a lot of different ways to evolve Pokemon, and there are even like some Pokemon that have very, very, very specific criteria you have to hit to evolve. But in first gen, it was just the 3. Uh, Leveling up, evolution stones, and of course, something that is really cool, been there since the beginning, trading. There are some Pokemon that you literally have to trade to evolve. I think that is a really cool way to, again, require you to have either a second copy of the game and a second Game Boy and a second, and a link cable. or have friends. Incentivize that, because there are
Yeah, I think they would officially say it was for friends.
yeah, whatever. Since the beginning, they have incentivized that with trade evolutions, which, cool.
Yeah, that was really hard back then, so kind of a dick move, but today it's a nice thing.
Yeah, again, today with Wi-Fi, it's way, way easier.
Yeah, I mean, I love the last Pokemon I played was Pokemon X, and trading in that was just ridiculously easy. I'd never
Oh yeah,
experienced something like that. So
yeah. Hmm.
the
Yep.
games evolve. Boom.
Anyway, obviously, this is kind of rare for a podcast, but being a Nintendo game, there are no trophies in Pokemon, unfortunately. So we can't talk about trophies this episode. I know you're very
Yeah,
upset
super
about that, Noah.
unfortunate.
Hey, here, if you want a little trophy side bit, I recently hit 8,000 total trophies.
I was looking for the section where I asked and I can't find it. What's your
And that
favorite moment?
and that is the notable trophies section of Pokemon. My favorite moment, Noah, is the Giovanni reveal. As I said earlier, just one of the coolest, most shocking reveals in gaming history.
It was really, really cool.
Like, it was the Team Rocket guy. Who knew?
Who
Mhm.
knew? I just thought it was a lazy gym leader.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
I
that does
guess
add to it of
they just
Viridian.
say the gym leader's not there, right?
Yeah, because
And you just
Viridian
move on to the
City.
next town.
Yeah, Viridian City is literally the first city you go to that isn't Pallet Town. And, there's a guy standing outside the gym. He's like, yeah, gym leader's gone. He just kind of disappeared. Who knows what's going on with that guy? And then you play through hours and hours of Pokemon and eventually get back. And someone's like, hey, the gym leader's returned. And you go, and oh my God, it's him. Anyway, Noah, who's your favorite gym leader or Elite
You
Four
didn't even
member?
ask my favorite moment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just thought you agreed with Giovanni. Noah, what's your favorite moment?
I did not agree. My favorite moment is always facing the Elite Four.
Oh.
It's the Elite Four is one of the most gruesome in-game segments I can think
Mhm.
of.
Yep, you have to fight them all in a row, can't heal, aside from healing items you have. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I honestly thought you were gonna say choosing your starter.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Mhm.
But the starters are always the same formula, and I wish they would branch out more. Like when I really got into Pokemon, I would play randomizers, and my favorite part was having random starters.
Oh, that is cool. That is cool. Yeah, I agree with that. Anyway, Noah, favorite gym leader and or Elite Four member?
Um, I guess I'll be basic and say my favorite Elite Four member is Lance, just because he has all the dragon types.
Really
And up
cool.
until you face him, you really don't see dragon types a lot.
I would counter, you never see them.
Well, that's what I mean.
Because in first gen, the only dragon type Pokemon are Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite. That's those are the only three. And it's one evolution line. And because even like Lance the Dragon Master has two Pokemon that aren't dragon types, because I think he has two Gyarados. But
That's
anyway,
crazy.
yeah, anyway, you can only find them in the Safari Zone. And so especially if you're someone who, and I think even you have to like fish in the Safari Zone to find them, like a Dratini or a Dragonair.
Yeah, they're
So
in the water.
yeah, so especially like you got to go out of your way to find them. So this very much you could play this entire game not knowing dragon type Pokemon exist, and all of a sudden you're fighting a guy with dragons. It's pretty cool. I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's how I played it.
Also, I want to add on. This is where I'll talk about this. Favorite moments. My favorite moment is the first time when we were kids that I beat this game. Really young, and we didn't really understand how you should play Pokemon. One, we didn't really understand types that well. At least I'm referring to myself here. I don't know about you. Where like I knew, well, basically to start off, always pick Squirtle as the starter, and always only used Squirtle. Never used any other Pokemon. There's a word
I
for
was
that.
gonna say I have done a solo run with
Yeah,
Squirtle.
there's like a word for that,
Well,
like
with
that
I
type of
mean Blastoise,
like a type
yeah.
of challenge. Yeah, and like I remember always struggling with the Elite Four because obviously you face your rival who has the grass type starter Venusaur with Solar Beam that could just wreck you no matter how. Like I would go in there with like a level 80 Blastoise because that's the only Pokemon I used the whole game. And type, the only thing I really knew about type coverage was I knew not even types, but just Pokemon that Blastoise's moves were good against. Like I knew that water type moves were good against Onyx, but I didn't understand type. I knew that dark type moves like Bite was good against the psychic type gym leader, so I would keep Bite for that gym leader. But again, not putting type to it, it was just like, oh, Alakazam, use Bite, and it hurts Alakazam. Uh, and I knew obviously that Grass was good against Blastoise. And I remember the first time I beat that, because over and over again I would have full restores, I would try and not even with like 20 levels over leveled, not be able to beat that Venusaur with my Blastoise. And I remember I had caught Zapdos and maybe Articuno, but I think just Zapdos, for just like to have a Pokemon that was at least somewhat able to fall back on in the Elite Four, because the rest of my Pokemon were the level I caught them at, and Zapdos you can catch at level 50. And so then with in my desperation, I switched out to Zapdos because that was the only other Pokemon I had that was even close to being on the same level as Blue's Venusaur. And the Zapdos honestly sucks in FireRed and LeafGreen because his move set, when you catch him, the only attack move he has is Drill Peck, which is a flying type move.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
gonna say, I remember him being like horrible.
yeah, that's the only move he has that does actual damage. So because that was the only move that did any damage, I just used Drill Peck. And that is when I learned that flying type moves are super effective on grass types. And I will never forget that because of that moment. And that's how I beat Pokemon Leaf Green for the first time, was using that Zapdos to take down his Venusaur and then using my level 80 Blastoise to
I
just
can't believe you
kill the
broke your
rest of his team.
solo run.
Well, I didn't know what that was. To me,
I know, I get you.
yeah,
I'm just joking.
yeah.
Because I did it just because I love Blastoise, and I was like, I want to beat the game with just Blastoise.
Well, that's like, because I mean, when you do that, because I didn't know like about grinding, about fighting, just
Yeah, but
fighting
I know
Pokemon over and
exactly
over
what you mean
again
about how
to
hard
level
that
up your
is because
party.
it sets you up to
Yeah.
lose if you just use your starter.
In first gen specifically. In every other gen, the champion is a random guy with, random Pokemon. But this one, it specifically is a person who
Yeah, but I like that.
can, yeah, no, it's cool. It's just, I would say first gen is probably the hardest generation to run through with your starter, because literally the champion, his highest level Pokemon, is specifically designed to kill your starter. Anyway, favorite moment. That's it. Anyway, favorite gym leader, Elite Four. My favorite gym leader, Koga. 1, I like his name. It's a cool name. 2, he's a ninja. 3, his gym has invisible walls, and that's cool. 4, he uses poison type, which I don't know why. I've always just loved poison type. I think there's just something so sinister about like I like poison types. I like dark types. Like those are probably my like poison, dark, and ghost are probably my 3 favorite Pokemon types. And because like I just love them. They're just so cool. And yeah, that's it. I love those. Love his poison type gym. Oh,
Interesting.
and then favorite Elite Four member, Agatha. She uses Ghost type. Also, I love her because she is old and sassy, and she knew Professor Oak, like they were childhood friends or rivals or whatever. And she just like, before you battle her, just talks about what an idiot he is, and I just love it. She's awesome.
Yeah, that is funny.
What we didn't like about the game, we had kind of mentioned it before. I mean, I guess I didn't say necessarily that I didn't like it, but the fact that you cannot complete the Pokedex without without trading with friends, multiple copies of the game, whatever. Even having friends readily available, I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I did not like the City Island edition. I
No,
know I said I wanted story after the Elite Four, but it was pretty bland. And
yeah.
I remember feeling like it was like really grindy at that point. Like I wanted
Mm-hmm.
Mewtwo, and you had to go to the islands first and complete the quest there. It's just a lot of hoopla.
No, I can absolutely agree with you. I remember even as a kid not knowing that these were remakes and that wasn't initially in the game, feeling like it was very weird and out of place. And I just did not care for it, even back then.
So of course, this being Pokemon, it is extremely replayable.
Yeah, absolutely. We've played through this game a lot and a lot and a lot. And I would gladly play through Pokemon any day.
Right, many people have, right?
Final thoughts. It's Pokemon, man. It's great. I think obviously if you want to play first generation Pokemon, I say you have to play the remakes versus over the actual first gen games because one, it's just a lot easier to get them. Two, the first gen games are slow. They're really like I have gone back and played them and they're very annoyingly slow. And again, like the extra stuff you don't have to do if you don't want to, like the Sevi Islands. So yeah, I think just awesome remake. If you want if you want this is the true first gen experience if you play this game.
Yeah, it's definitely better than playing the originals now, right? And these old ones can be played on PC pretty easily with emulators.
Yes. So that's Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen.
Right.
No, you pick the game, introduce it. What are you
Oh,
doing?
so anyway, we're gonna go to the indie bit, the bit where we talk about indie games.
Yay!
Today, we are talking about A Way Out. So, A Way Out is a game that is co-op required, right? It's a very unique system of gameplay in today's day and age, honestly. Jaden and I played this together the first time we played it. You play as two, I would say, middle-aged-ish men who begin in prison and devise a strategy to break out together begrudgingly. And so the gameplay is each of you takes the role of one of the two characters. And as you go along, the screen is split and it moves dynamically. It changes basically how it looks all the time. And you can see what the other person is doing simultaneously. You can do separate things in different environments, but mostly you're doing things together. There's timing-based actions, a lot of very unique co-op gameplay aspects. I don't know how deeply we want to talk about the story. It's kind of like spoiler territory. The story is kind of a lot of the game. So what do you think?
I think what you said is fine. You're playing as two dudes breaking out of prison, trying to get revenge on the guy who put both of you in prison
Right.
in separate instances.
Yes,
Noah, did you like A Way Out?
I did. I loved this game. It wasn't too long. Uh, the mechanics in these type of games can be a little iffy sometimes, but I found this one to be, for the most part, pretty good. I remember there was one section where we were tossing, one of us was tossing a baseball, right? And we would take turns trying to swing. And it was really hard to hit the ball because the timing in the game and whatnot. Uh, later in the game, there's actually shooting sections and very action-oriented sequences. And those do feel like a little muggy, but for the most part, they're good too. I thought the gameplay was clean. The story was really nicely done. Like I was not expecting it to be as good as it was at all. And it was extremely emotional.
I see.
Yeah. Did you like it?
I did. I honestly feel like I probably didn't like it as much as you did. I felt like the story, while overall I liked it, I feel like it became a bit much for what I wanted. Like I went into this game thinking it was all about a prison break, which is I was like, oh man, I love that prison break. That sounds awesome. But I mean, really, you break out of prison, let like a quarter through the game, maybe a little bit farther than that. It's actually a surprisingly for a game called A Way Out, and you're trying to find a way out of prison. Very small part of the game.
I completely agree with that.
Also, when you're because most gameplay sections you're like in an open area exploring trying to solve puzzles whatever, you can also do literally whatever you want. Like so many things are interactable, allowing you to do random stuff that I feel like it's for how serious the story is and how serious the situation is, it takes away from it for me a bit. When you're on the run, you break into this like farm home and you're trying to, find like a vehicle, get a truck started, but you can climb a tower, you can watch TV, you can start a fire, you can cook bacon, you can open the fridge and
You
take a
play
drink.
piano.
You can play piano and banjo together. Like it's
It was a great
it's
time. It was
so
like a cabin weekend getaway, and then we stole their trucks.
yeah, like it was fun as we were playing through it, just doing stuff like that. But in terms of like the story, it really takes away from it for me
Yeah,
because
I
it's like,
understand.
given the situation, why are we doing this, And I also have to comment, you mentioned you do get guns and play through what might be the worst third person shooter I have ever played. You
I
very
did
much,
say it was muggy.
yeah, very much, the game is not a third person shooter at heart. It felt to me very tacked on. And again, like, it's not good gameplay. The aiming, the actual like shooting people is just super weird and not great. Doesn't feel great. And again, it's like, so for a game that for a decent amount of it, especially at the beginning, to me was coming across as very realistic and cool, just went super cheesy action for like what? You know,
I
like
agree with that.
yeah. Again, it's at the beginning of the game, you're playing as two dudes in prison who are just two dudes. Like you're just two dudes. You're not action heroes. You're not whatever. But then by the end of the game, man, are you action heroes? Again, just kind of
The
took away
problem
from it a
is
bit.
you're right. At the beginning, it's realistic, and by the end, it's a video game because you're two individuals taking down a mafia, a army single-handedly.
Yeah,
And
literally.
the fact that they're wearing bulletproof vests does not save face
Yeah.
to me.
That's something that, as much as again, I love the overall story, I love the end and all that like everything that it builds up to in the end is
The
awesome.
drama is good.
Yeah, but just
The
that,
action
like,
is bad.
yeah. Also, I have to be honest, I don't typically like bashing on voice actors or performers in a game because I'm not a professional in any way, and I'm sure that anyone in any game we've ever talked about, any performer, it did a better job than I probably could. But Leo, the main character, one of the main characters, he is a Italian American. He is literally played both like in like mocapping and voice acted by the director of the game's brother. I'm 90% sure it's literally his brother. And sometimes his performance very much comes across as he's a guy's brother and not an actor. Um,
That is so funny.
yeah, it's like,
Um,
again, I don't want to bash it. It's just
did
some
you
of,
bet that at all? Did you check? Who is it?
oh, right
No,
now?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
I was just curious.
it was when we played the game. I remember
Oh,
like they had the same last name, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's just his brother. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh no, that's his brother. Okay, yeah. And even the guy Vincent, the other main character, even the guy who plays him, just sometimes their deliveries, they're just so awkward feeling and just not perform well that I'm like, I don't know what's to blame for it. But again, it's something that, for as serious as the game is trying to be, really takes me out of it sometimes.
that's true. I mean, we don't mean to diminish anybody's work. It's,
Yeah,
we just want to give honest critiques, right? Like,
yeah,
we want games to be as good as they can possibly be.
yeah.
And the only
And
way to do so is to call the weak.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like I would say 70% of the time it's fine, but just at least once per conversation, there's a delivery of a line that I just stop and think, maybe do a few more takes of that one. That was a little weird. Uh, anyway, that's it. Overall, it is a great game. It is the last game as of now that we actually cooperatively played through together.
The last game we completed, we're currently playing through things,
That's what I meant. Like,
which you
as
can
of
see
now,
on our
it's the last
YouTube
game.
channel.
Yeah,
I mean,
wink, wink, wink. It is the last game that we completed together currently. But yeah, no, I mean, I like it. Overall, I would recommend it to like anyone who wanted to play it. I think anyone can play this game and have a fun time. And again, I would say the end is absolutely worth it, and
I
no
do
matter what.
think another issue, I mean, I understand it's the way the game is, but requiring co-op, needing somebody else can be difficult for some
Yeah.
people, I think.
Now, it was really annoying for me trying to get all the trophies in the game because my co-op partner didn't want to do that. So I literally had to play through with 2 controllers to get some of the trophies, which is annoying, I will say.
Imagine grinding for somebody else's platinum trophy.
I mean, you could have gotten it too.
Joking.
No,
I'm
f you.
joking. I've definitely grinded for your platinum trophies many times.
Absolutely.
Injustice.
They're the best. It's the best. I just love when I am like, all right, gonna call Noah to ask him to help me with this trophy. Let's hope it goes well.
How many stupid random games have I downloaded to co-op or be an online dummy in?
A lot. I mean, even games that you've had to physically come over to my house to play.
That is true. We do have a long history of Rock Band.
Yeah, we'll yes. Yeah,
Are
you've
we ever gonna talk about any of the Guitar Heroes rock bands?
I don't
I
know.
never
We
thought about
could.
that.
We
Yeah.
could. We could.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh man. Anyway, the next indie bit game, Noah, I'm sure you'll love this one. It's the return of a classic. We're finally talking about it. Parappa the Rapper 2.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
We talked for any long time Super Gamer Bros podcast listeners. We talked about Parappa the Rapper, a PlayStation 1 classic. Not years. I don't know why I said. It might have been a year ago at this point, but it was one of our earlier indie bits. And I remember we were going to do the sequel at one point, like months ago, but Noah had guessed that's what I was going to pick before I said it out loud, so I changed it at the last minute. And now we are actually doing it. Noah, I know you were not a fan of the first game. I don't know if you'll be a fan of the second, but I can promise you the second is way, way better.
Okay. I mean, I try to approach every indie bit with an open mind.
Yeah, try. Anyway, don't forget. So I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add there.
No, you're good.
Yeah, anyway, don't forget new episodes every other Monday. Rate and subscribe. Tell us if you like our show, or tell us if you don't, and tell us why. Tell your friends and enemies about the podcast. And you can follow our Instagram, the Super Gamer Bros, for updates on anything we do. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Super Gamer Bros. One word, capital S, capital G, capital B, period at the end, where we upload videos at least every Friday, or try to. In the last 2 weeks, we did a reaction to the Nightwing and Red Hood gameplay reveal trailer spot for Gotham Knights. Admittedly, spoiler alert.
Rude.
I'm gonna edit that out because why would they watch the video? I just ruined it. And most recent, just uploaded this past Friday, part 3 of our playthrough of the Legend of Korra video game. You can't buy it, you can't download it. Watch our playthrough instead. We're almost done with it. Thank God, because playing through that game is a lot more of a struggle than I thought it would be. Anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys next game.
Bye.